What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Advice with a special edition episode today. This is a short one, only one battle, but I ran into a pretty interesting Toxic Stall team, and I figured I'd give y'all a little demonstration on how to play around Toxic Stall when you get into a rough spot. So I couldn't tell this was Toxic Stall from Team Preview, but I found out soon enough. Now, the team does look a little fishy with the Clodsire and Revival Blessing Palmot with no Dondozo, so I definitely didn't play this game perfectly, but I did what I needed to do to win, even after a really rough turn one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the plays that I made, talk about my thought process, but also talk about the plays that I could have made better that would have made the game a lot easier. So every game is a learning experience. If you have a way to record your games or you play on Showdown, I definitely recommend taking a look at the replays. Because even when you win, you probably didn't play the game perfectly, and if you go back, there are turns that you could have made, better plays, and the more you watch back, the better you're going to be. If you can improve on games that you won and make those game plans a little tighter, you're going to have the experience to do a lot better in future games. So we see my opponent leads Clodsire and Meowscarada against my Roaring Moon and Amoonguss. Now, I rushed in blindly and went for an Acrobatics into Meowscarada and a Spore into Clodsire, but they protected their Clodsire and they were Focus Sash, so you'll see here, they go for a U-turn into my Roaring Moon, and with the Protean boost and the crit, they are able to one-shot my Roaring Moon, so if I had gone Protect there, the worst case scenario was they knock off my Amoonguss and break their own Sash, and then I can KO them next turn with Acrobatics, so there was really no reason for me to not Protect there. So now I'm down Slifer. I just spored into a Protect. They got their Dragonite in, and I'm down 3-4. So they go for a Fire Punch. It doesn't do very much damage because I'm really bulky Amoonguss, and I go for a Foul Play, and it does nothing because this Dragonite is super bulky. I do put it to sleep, but Clodsire, which is a Pokemon you don't see very often, throws a Toxic into my Umbreon. And I did have Terra Poison, but Toxic just wasn't something I saw coming. So, I didn't play against it, and now my Umbreon's on a timer. I'm already down 3-4. And they protect their Clodsire here. Dragonite takes its first turn of sleep. And I go for another Foul Play into it. But you can see with Leftovers recovery, it's not even a 3-hit KO. So I'm still ticking away with Chip. I didn't put their Clodsire to sleep. Dragonite takes another turn of sleep. I do go for the Foul Play, but it survives. And I was predicting the Meowscarada to switch in on the Spore there. So that's why I went for the Pollen Puff, but it didn't pay off. So the Stall players tend to play a pretty patterned game plan, so it's good to pay attention to how they play, figure out which Pokemon they like to protect. Because, if you're attacking into Protects while Toxic is going off, you're wasting too many turns, so against a Stall player, you really want to play a flexible game plan based around how they're playing. You can't just do your own thing. It doesn't work. You really have to pay extra attention to how they're playing, because they will beat you quickly. So they go for a Roost here. So they got Roost, Bulky, Dragonite. I'm throwing attacks into it. I get a crit there, which helps, but they're roosting off more damage than I can output. Now, I switched Iron Hands in to recycle Amoonguss' Regenerator, but I don't want to leave it in here and take a Toxic on Iron Hands, because if you have two Pokemon Toxic, you don't have any way of keeping your Toxic Pokemon off the field. And they can just Protect spam and watch your health run down. So I switch Amoonguss back in to take advantage of that Regenerator and just fake out the Clodsire to make sure it doesn't Toxic my Iron Hands. They take the turn to go for another Roost into Dragonite. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch my Toxic to Umbreon into the Iron Hand slot that they want a Toxic, And I'm going to put Dragonite to sleep. Dragonite has Fire Punch, so it can do big damage into my Amoonguss. And I can't let it keep doing that while I'm trying to take care of it. So I basically have to get it asleep and then position myself to where I can get a taunt off on Clodsire so that I can have both Iron Hands and Umbreon on the field doubling into Dragonite. Because if it doesn't get a 3-turn sleep, Umbreon can't take it out by itself. And 3-turn sleeps are hard to come by. So Dragonite's asleep. I foul play it just to make sure that they're roosting instead of fire punching into my Amoonguss if they wake up. Go for the Pollen Puff. And they poison jab me, but Umbreon just came back in, so the Toxic isn't ticking too hard. And Leftovers is helping to counteract it as well, so. Now, Clodsire being slower than Amoonguss is a double-edged sword, because even though I can put it to sleep before it can attack, I can't get a safe switch in because it does have a chance of waking up immediately the next turn, because it's going to burn its sleep turn the turn I put it to sleep. So that makes it a little tougher, being that Clodsire is really slow. But I do put it to sleep here and just hope that it stays asleep longer than 1 turn. Dragonite's taking 2 turns of sleep here, but I'm hoping that it'll stay asleep for a 3rd turn so that I can get off another foul play into it. It looks like it's in range of another foul play, but you can't be too sure. And I need to keep cycling Amoonguss around because they've been doing a good job of spreading the damage and keeping Amoonguss lower than I'd like. So they do take a 3rd turn of sleep there finally. I get off a foul play, but it doesn't KO. And instead of Pollen Puffing into that slot to double up, I Spored. Now the reason I Spored there was because I thought they might switch in their 4th full health Pokemon. And I wanted to catch that on the switch in. But unfortunately they didn't do that, and foul play didn't pick up. So now Dragonite is guaranteed to wake up. It's faster than Umbreon, so it's going to get a roost off, but I need to switch Umbreon out to reset that Toxic timer or I'm going to lose it. Bring in Iron Hands. Dragonite does wake up and goes for that roost, but because it was guaranteed to wake up, I knew I could go for a safe Spore there. So I do put Dragonite back to sleep. I do have Iron Hands on the field. And Clodsire stays asleep for me. So now I'm feeling like I'm in a decent position. But I still haven't been able to take care of that Dragonite, and I don't really have a good way to hit it with Iron Hands. So I switch Iron Hands back out just in case Clodsire wakes up. Dragonite takes its 1st turn of sleep. I go for a Pollen Puff to get my health back with Umbreon. Clodsire wakes up on the 3rd turn and goes for the Poison Jab into Amoonguss. So now Amoonguss is low enough that if Dragonite wakes up and hits it with a Fire Punch, it might KO, and it'll definitely KO if Clodsire doubles up with the Poison Jab. So I gotta recycle that Regenerator again. So I decide here to go for the Taunt onto Dragonite as I switch out Amoonguss. And that way, even if Dragonite wakes up, it has to go for attacks or switch out. Because I can't just have it keep sitting there getting leftovers, roosting, while I'm dying from Toxic. So Umbreon's pretty healthy, but that Toxic do be working kind of quick. And so what I want to do here is I want to keep maintaining my offensive pressure, because I can't afford to switch Amoonguss into a double up if Dragonite does wake up. So I go for the Taunt into Clodsire as Dragonite takes another turn of sleep. And I just throw a Thunder Punch at it as Clodsire does go for the Toxic. So I know Taunt's not a super exciting attack to fit on a team, but you can see in situations like this, without Taunt, I'm losing this game 100% of the time. So Dragonite wakes up, can't roost, so it goes for the Dragon Claw into Chip. I get off a foul play that brings it into range for this Thunder Punch. So we finally get rid of the Dragonite. But after this poison jab, Chip is going to go down to the Toxic. But I had to leave it on the field to get rid of that Dragonite. I couldn't keep letting that Roost cycle happen, and Taunt was about to wear off. So now it's a 2v3. They do have Sash, Meowscarada, Full Health Clodsire, and a Pokemon that we haven't seen in the back. Now I do misplay here. I didn't know the mechanic with Protean, but I went for a Rage Powder to redirect Meowscarada into my Rocky Helmet. They do turn into a Fairy type, but it doesn't redirect with Rage Powder because it was a Grass type at the beginning of the turn, and they get an attack drop. So I do take them out with the Drain Punch, but I didn't really need to Rage Powder there because Clodsire still had a turn of Taunt left, so it couldn't even Toxic my Iron Hands. So Pollen Puff into my own Iron Hands or a Spore into Clodsire were definitely the best plays there. And I missed that opportunity, but I still do have 84 HP. They do shake off the Taunt with Clodsire, so Toxic is available again. They bring in their last Pokemon, Rotom, and I misplay here again. Drain Punch was a better play. Thunder Punch isn't super effective. Drain Punch does the same amount of damage as Thunder Punch, and I'd get health back, but I'm stupid, so they go for a Hydro Pump and miss. Now that was lucky, but I did the calc after the game, and max special attack Modest Rotom only does 82 damage maximum with Hydro Pump to my hand spread, so I would have been able to Rage Powder the next attack away. I still go for a Thunder Punch instead of the Drain Punch, and I Pollen Puff my own Iron Hands. And they miss another Hydro Pump, so if both of those Hydro Pumps had hit the way I played, I would have lost. But, I mean, it's a pretty good chance that 1 out of 2 Hydro Pumps misses, so I don't feel too bad. And I get off this Pollen Puff, and that basically puts me permanently out of range from their Rotom. So they go for the Poison Jab instead of the Toxic, maybe expecting another Rage Powder. And I still don't realize that I should be clicking Drain Punch into the Rotom. I Spore Clodsire. They go for a Shadow Ball into Amoonguss because they're tired of Amoonguss doing Amoonguss stuff. And I still go for that Thunder Punch. Doesn't quite pick up, so that attack drop really helped them out. But I get the Spore off into Clodsire. And now I'm thinking, alright, I have a free Protect here because they can't KO Iron Mike with Rotom, so I'm going to just finally Drain Punch the Rotom when it has no health and protect my Amoonguss. They do go for a Shadow Ball into my Protect. I get off the Drain Punch to finish off Rotom. So now it's just their Clodsire left I gotta deal with. Rotom's down. They do get the first turn Wake Up, but it actually helps me out in this scenario because if they hadn't woken up, I would have had to spam Rage Powder, whereas now I got a free Spore into them. So Drain Punch is resisted by Poison. They're immune to Thunder Punch, so I go Terrafire, Fire Punch. And I didn't notice it at this point, but the game clock is super low, so I could have actually let the game clock run all the way out before my move timer ran out, and we wouldn't have had to do this play, but this was a guaranteed win anyways because Amoonguss is faster. I could put them to sleep, and at the end of the turn, I'll have 2 Pokemon, and they'll only have 1, so I'll win by the timer rules. And if the timer rules weren't there, that Fire Punch does do enough that I'd be able to KO them just by alternating Rage Powder and Protect, putting them back to sleep when they woke up, and finishing them off with Terrafire, Fire Punches. So yeah, I didn't play perfectly. There were a few plays I could have made a lot better that would have made the game a lot easier. I highlighted those in the match, so I hope you learned something from this. Good game to my opponent, cool team. Appreciate y'all watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.